Let's begin with determining the difference between the WS half-inch models. The difference between the models is that we offer a rigid mounted model called the WS half-inch and a jointed model called the WS half-inch J. The concept of the jointed model is to help those customers who do a lot of 4-inch 90-degree bends get through them easier. You will know it is time to do some maintenance on the tool when you see water leaking from the wheat ports in the inlet nut here, or if you notice that the tool is rotating much faster than when you initially ran it. If this occurs, it is time to inspect the high pressure seal and the fluid level inside the tool. If the tool is rotating too fast, you need to add more viscous fluid. To do this, fill the syringe with the fluid and hold the tool with the whip hose upright in a vise. Unscrew the port screw and thread in the syringe. Slowly squeeze the fluid into the swivel until excess fluid begins to come out of the weep holes here. If the fluid comes out dirty or watery, continue squeezing in the new fluid until it has flushed out the tool. Now remove the syringe and replace the port screw. If the tool is leaking water from the weep holes, it is time to replace the high pressure seal. Begin this repair by holding the tool in a vise and unscrew the inlet nut from the body. First, we will demonstrate the rigid model. Be sure not to use the hose hex nut to unscrew the inlet nut, but rather use the flats provided here. Unthread the nut from the hose assembly. Now, let's demonstrate the jointed assembly. To take apart this assembly, you will need to begin by prying out the face piece as shown. Pull out the O-ring. Now unscrew the inlet nut by inserting a 7/32 hex wrench into the ball joint piece and unscrew the two pieces. Once the inlet nut is removed, inspect the face here for any scratches or dings on both models. Pull off the outer centralizer. Now, remove the brass seat and blue plastic seal. Inspect the brass seat for any dings or erosion and check the high pressure seal for damage. Replace either if necessary. To replace the seal, be sure to apply grease to the O-ring first. Now push the seal into the bore of the shaft and follow that with the brass seat. Pay close attention to the orientation of these parts, making sure that the brass seat is placed with the chamfered side facing the inlet nut. After applying anti-seize, thread and tighten the inlet nut. This level of maintenance should allow you at least 100 hours of operation. If you have more than a couple hundred hours of operation, or if the tool does not rotate smoothly by hand, it is time for a complete overhaul. Start the overhaul process by removing the head from the shaft of the tool. Look inside the head for any debris that may have gotten lodged in the jets. Now remove the inlet nut. Slide the outer centralizer up and off. Pull out the brass seat and plastic seal. You can now pour out the old viscous fluid into an appropriate receptacle. Pay attention to the fluid coming out of the tool. If the fluid has any water mixed in, you will want to look at the remaining inner parts for any rust or corrosion, and also realize that you will need to do the preventive maintenance more often. Once the fluid is drained out of the tool, you can remove the shaft and bearings. Separate the bearings from the shaft, which may require a bearing press. Pry out the shaft seals from the body and from the inlet nut and separate the O-ring. Now take all the individual parts and clean and inspect them for reassembly. There are a few parts that you may want to look at closer. Be sure that the inside diameter of the body is smooth and has no grooves. Look at the shaft and inspect the inner seal bore for any grooves. Inspect the inlet nut by making sure that the seal face is smooth and has no pits. With each bearing, be sure that they spin freely by hand with little resistance or wobbling. Replace the centralizer if it has been worn through. Inspect the whip hose and replace it if it is worn. Now we are ready to reassemble the tool. Begin the reassembly by greasing the inner lips of the shaft seals. With the seal installing tool, you can press the shaft seals into place. The lips of the shaft seal need to face into the body here. The other shaft seal needs to face into the inlet nut like this. Now slip the O-ring over the threads of the inlet nut and apply anti-seize to the threads. Press the shaft into the 3 bearings. Be sure that the pressure is added to the inside race of the bearings when putting these bearings on the shaft. The inner race should sit flat against the shoulder of the shaft. Replace the port screw and insert the fill tube into the body through the lip seal. Fill the body with about a ½ inch of fluid and then take the shaft and bearings and put them into the body. This will push out the fill tube. After you have done this, you should check the fluid level and be sure that it covers the top of the bearings. Replace the outer centralizer. Install the high pressure seal and brass seat and inlet nut as demonstrated earlier. Cover the threads of the shaft with Teflon tape and screw on the head. If you find that you are experiencing rotational speed problems, you may look at sizing the jets, which eventually wear out, and understand that these tools are easy to modify in order to accommodate different pump sizes and hose lengths by simply replacing the jets. StoneAge offers all the parts and tools seen here individually and in kits to help you with your repair.